Hi Gav, how are you?
How are you doing, my man? I'm
Good
good.
stuff. Good. Well, it's good to talk to you again. It's the highlight of my time. I'll be honest with you. It's a good use of time because we get to chat about the things we love.
Exactly.
I've got some questions for you to start us off.
Oh, God.
Are you ready? Let me just finish joking. False start.
Go ahead.
Nintendo or Sega?
Ooh, mate, that's hard.
Yeah.
What game are you talking, though?
You can't ask any more questions.
Oh, jeez. Oh, it's hard, mate. That's a hard one, that is, because I love Sonic. I love Mario as well.
If you got to fight for the cause, which one would it be?
Mario. Nintendo.
Did Mario Kart tip it for you?
Yeah.
I think that because if it's just platform games, Sonic versus Mario, I'd go Sonic, a bit quicker.
Yeah.
But when Mario Kart hit, that defined nights with your mates, 4-player.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Gabriel's playing both of them now as well.
Is it? Yeah, my nephew is. My nephew's on Mario at the minute.
Yeah.
Which is it just shows, doesn't it? The old things worked. Right, next thing. Do you listen to music when you exercise?
Yes.
What kind of music and why?
Why? Like, I always have hip hop on.
All right.
Pretty much, like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just music.
It's the angry beat, isn't it? It's the angriness of it. Might
Sometimes.
be. It's not. They're never talking about flowers and roses, are they? It's normally quite angry hip hop.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like I've been brought up around it. Like I grew up around that type of music, where I was born and the town I was from. It's like mixed culture. Is like cultural differences there. So my family's Italian. The area we grew up in, there was lots of Jamaican heritage there as well. So we're friendly with a lot of Jamaican backgrounds. So like reggae was brought up. I was brought up around that type of music. And obviously hip hop and rap started coming into it as well. So
yeah,
when I was in my teen years, that was the type of thing we were listening to, and that was it really. So
hey, you didn't just stop there, did you? Because you weren't prepared for this, but I will take it there because we need to talk about this. Because you went into the UK garage scene, didn't you?
Yeah.
I never knew this until we were friends for a while, which was annoying because I had this little obsession with becoming a garage MC, which I never told anybody about. And then you told me that you used to DJ garage, and there's something there that was still not unearthed. So
I need to get some decks again because I had them from bloody hell. I did it for about 5 years, I think, and it was starting a little thing. Like a few of my mates are doing that. I just started getting into it, and I just caught the ear for it. So you get the beat quite quick.
Yeah.
I learned to mix quite quick. And then I started following all the bigger DJs and like learned little tricks from them. So like EZ was like quick chops and things like that. So I started taking on that type of style of DJing and stuff. And it was, yeah, I got to play in front of crowds and big nightclubs and things like that.
Yeah, you was on the bill, weren't you? You was on the bill. You was on that flyer. You was on the Garage Nation flyers.
Got it, mate.
What was your name?
Il Duce.
Oh, DJ.
So basically, I had to have the Italian thing in there.
Yeah.
Il Duce is like Mussolini, so he's called the commander. So that's so it's like the little thing around it.
I like it. I think you just. It was before you've probably good at the wrong time. Maybe you was the fundamentals of where it's come down. But can you imagine if you was doing it now? You'd be on the scene. You'd have done Iron Napa. You'd have been in Ibiza. You'd have done all those.
One of the first years I went to Iron Napa for holiday to check it all out, and mate, it was unbelievable over there.
Was it?
Like, absolutely unbelievable.
It's always hard for me because where I am, it's growing up. There is a cultural mix. There's some areas of Derby which do have the cultural mix there, but where I grew up on my side of the town or city, I should say, it just wasn't. Yeah. You're talking like 2 or 3 sort of non-white families, which had its obvious challenges, which we won't go into today, but there was difficulties there. But when I got into sort of teenage years, when going out and music was there, a lot of the clubs and bars in town, and I know this from sort of working in and around there, my brother was DJ, they used to ban R&B and garage and hip hop because it just incited fights and all these sort of race wars for no reason. So going abroad was really the only time I'd hear it, which was funny because all the time I was going out with my friends in Derby, we'd go to these cheesy pop nights and I'd have to sit through 80s music and sort of, you'd have to be severely drunk to enjoy it. And then we'd go on holiday, they'd have the time of their life listening to garage. And then I'd come home and I'd go, do you want to go to this garage night? No. I don't know why you wouldn't want to go, because you just had the time of your life in Portugal and in Spain and all these places we used to go. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? Yeah. So it was always a holiday. It was always a holiday thing for me, but I'd still have the tape packs. I still listen to it and I go exercising now. So
last minute. So to be fair, some days I'll whack that back on if I'm feeling like they'll pick me up way. But sometimes I'll just whack the hip hop on and just put up sometimes. Depends what type of mood I'm in, I suppose.
I think it does. I mean, obviously the reason we're talking about this, we're talking about technology today and digital technology, and music's probably the start of that, because it's evolved from your tape players, your Discman, your mini disc and all that. And now it's all streaming, and lots of people can do it wirelessly when they're training. So more people are doing it. You see The Rock with his headphones on. You see Anthony Joshua with his Beats headphones on. So it's like it's an accessory now, music is. And with that comes apps, because you've got these people doing HIIT training. You've got people going out running. I mean, I talk about music because I go running a lot. And I think that when I go running, it's more to get in the headspace and think and have some time to sort of, dissolve information through the filters of my head, which could go in all directions. But it also means that I run at a faster pace if I've got quicker music on. So I tend to have garage on and on jungle music when I'm running, because it keeps me at a faster pace. Whereas you're lifting weights more than I do, so you're in hip hop. So probably the tempo has got something to do with it. If you listen to quicker music, you tend to do things too quickly, and that could also inhibit your training because you're doing your reps too quick, or you're more, it breeds a bit of adrenaline, and you think, right, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do these isometric holds. I don't want to do this slow tempo work. I'd rather go and do jump squats and smash it up in the corner. So it can be a help or a hindrance, music. But I definitely think that people ask me a lot, like with running, should I have music on to help me? And I think, every sort of one in every 4 runs, you should probably not have music on, because you need to be able, just like weightlifting or any other type of training, you've got to listen to your breathing patterns. And it's quite easy to get it to be an uncontrollable breathing pattern. And we've mentioned breathing in the past about nervous systems and how that can channel energy and blood flow and upregulate and downregulate your hormones. So running or cycling or rowing or lifting weights, anyone that's listening to this can take something from it, because if you're not in tune with that to begin with, the way you breathe and how you do it, especially when you get to those heavy reps, or when you've really got to get the breathing right, otherwise, you're just not going to perform the lift correctly. So there's a lot there's a lot to be said about music and what you do and how it motivates you, and you've got to play is it helping me or is it hindering me card? And I think sometimes you've got to have a mixture of both.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right. The session makes a difference as well. So for example, if you're doing like a conditioning session, and I'm doing a little bit of aerobic style weight training at the minute, just to give myself a bit more of that aerobic base with my training at the minute, because that's lacking. So if you're thinking about like the weight training that I do, in terms, let's say for the hip hop session, right? So it's slower paced, I'm lifting heavier. So what that's going to do with the breath is like you're basically holding your breath to a certain extent, and then expelling that breath out. So basically you're starting to hypertrophy potentially the heart muscle, the left ventricular chamber of the heart. So the thicker that is, and this is where you can, this might delve into a little bit of the tracking part a little bit better as well, where it can affect the type of energy system and the blood pressure and your resting heart rate. That type of thing can get affected then based off the type of training that you're doing.
Yeah.
So let's say you're predominantly weight training all the time. Well, typically that would hypertrophy the left chamber of the heart. So all that means is the muscle becomes thicker on the inside. So if that becomes thicker, that means you pull less blood inside that left part of the heart, which means there's less blood to pump around. Yeah. If that makes sense. But you can forcefully contract it. Okay. So what happens then is like, well, your blood pressure's becoming pretty high, potentially, and then you've got an elevated heart rate. Mm-hmm. So what sometimes you might need to do is then back off and give yourself more aerobic based work where it's lighter in nature, the intensity drops on the bar, it's lighter weight, and you move more rhythmically. So typically, let's think of like running, for example. That's a steady state movement. You're extending the period out, and that typically then eccentrically hypertrophies the heart, so thins it out a bit more. So now you can pull the blood a bit more. Yeah. So if you're going in and out of the two, and you get a nice mix of the two areas, you can then have a nice balance where you're able to pull enough and you're able to contract the heart hard enough to get everything flowing through. So your fitness levels are good, you're getting strong, you're fit and healthy, right? So
it expels a bit of a myth when people say, you know, do you do cardio or weights? Well, there's benefits to both. And it's you know, which one do you do more of, or which do, and you've just got to get that balance. You know, that's right. And, you know, people that are serious about whether it be we'll start with weightlifting. People that are serious about weightlifting need to consider the yin and the yang, the weightlifting and the running or the cardiovascular side of it, because it will help you. There's obviously the whole research about cardio and elevating cortisol, but you've got to think what you're doing it for. I mean, I've already said to you, I don't run for fitness related benefits. I run for other, some more mental health, really, because it's time to get out, unwind, not be in front of a computer, you know, and there's nothing wrong with stopping and just sort of taking in the countryside or wherever you are. So there's a lot to be said.
Like if you're using that like weight training for aerobic adaptations, you might not be able to see the heart benefits from it as much as you would like steady state bike work, like when you're doing the Ironman triathlon training, right? So you'll probably be really looking at eccentric heart strength then for that left chamber, because you're just basically doing endurance training. Yeah. Whereas like if you're doing aerobic style weight training, so basically circuits, when you think about it, the intensity would be dropped off to a certain amount, let's say 30 to 40% of whatever you're going to lift for a 1 RM for that lift. So let's say you could back squat 100 kilos, then you would only use like 30 kilos on the bar just to keep performing whatever reps you're going to do. So then you move through the exercise. So you're not going max. So it's easy to go through, but you're going to train your muscles to be able to withstand that volume. So that's the whole point of that. So that way you can so the way you're going to start to track that then, so this is when you can start using heart rate straps. So what's the goal of the session? If it's more endurance based, then you're going to be working with lower heart rate zones. Make sense? Yeah. So you would still work into that aspect. So you're tracking then your heart rate from session to session. So let's put this into context of how you could track this to see if you're getting fitter. Let's say, for example, Marv, I gave you 4 exercises back to back, and it might be a squat pattern, a pull pattern, a hip hinge pattern, and a pushing pattern. And they were all around a 20 to 30 RM, and you're going to do 8 to 10 reps of it. So that means you've got loads of room in the tank. And I say, right, Marv, you're going to go 40 minutes, as many rounds as you can. Yeah. So, but I'm going to give you some things to think about if I want to keep you working more aerobically. If you hit a certain heart rate, which is typically where you might spill over into more lactic acid stuff, you're going to take a rest. Yeah. You're going to rest until your heart rate drops down to about 120, and then you're going to go again. So what happens now, you can only work to a certain amount of rounds within that 40 minutes based off your fitness. Yeah. And then week by week, what you should see is that you don't go as high because you're getting fitter, and then you do more rounds, or you're taking less recovery between the time you hit it because your heart rate's dropping quicker, and then you can see yourself getting fitter. So that's one way to track with heart rate zones, with weight training, and you can sort of put that side by side with like your conditioning stuff as well. Definitely.
So heart rate was going to be one of the first ports of call we get onto, and we've probably pretty much covered why you would do that and different ways you would do that. Then I think a lot of time, we've got a few myths in the industry, people using heart rate zones that are based off a number rather than trying to figure it out. I think for anyone listening to this and thinking about how to get heart rate and how does it work, I think the first bit of advice we'd give is the consistency of it. You've got to monitor your heart over a period of time, days and workouts for you to know what good looks like for you, because it can't be the formulas of taking minusing your age from a heart rate number 220 will only give you a complete guess, if I'm honest. And it would depend on many factors, like what you're doing. For example, running would be a higher impact than, sit on a bike, because there's no impact in ground contact or ground force reaction. That's going to elevate your heart rate 10 or 15 beats per minute. Yeah. So that's not going to give you a true reflection. At the moment, what you've got is, and I get this typically because I've worked with a lot of digital companies, people will come to me and say, I'm buying a smartwatch. There's one priced at £50 that gives me my heart rate. And there's one at £400 that would pretty much cook your dinner for you if you wanted it to. which one do I get? And they always justify it by saying, I don't need all of that. I don't need all that. I don't need it to cook my dinner. I don't need to this. And what I always say to people, and it's the best advice I can give, is always buy the highest priced you can, or I should reword that, the product that gives you the most possible options.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, if you look at something like, and we'll drop some names in there, like a Garmin watch, they literally measure everything. You sleep, there's tests on there. I mean, mine's got a breath count, and you put it on, it tells you when to breathe in, when you breathe out. It takes your heart rate constantly throughout the day on your wrist. But then when you train, you've got different zone patterns. So if I'm doing weights, I can have a zone pattern to keep to for weights, and a different one for when I go running, and a different one for when I'm swimming. It gives me so many parameters. And what happens is when you buy it, you'll probably only use 5% because that's what you bought it for. But by the end of, and it's a very short time, it's probably a number of weeks, you are using 30%, 40% more than you thought you would.
Yeah.
Because if you've got the capacity to add more to it, what people do with technology is it's like a gateway. Once you're in, you've got the thirst, you're addicted.
Yeah.
And people that are listening that think technology, good or bad, I worry about it, I'm not very tech savvy, and all these things that people say, is my advice would be to get it, because there's so much you can do with it. Yeah. And the more you've got, the more you can do. You buy the cheap one, you're only doing one thing. And then the other thing is the accuracy in cheaper products isn't always there. And then also you have batteries that last less time. A lot of the time it's quite common in the heart rate straps that people have had them for 5-10 years. They've sat under the bed, they get them out, they put them on, they wear them, and they think everything's the same, but they've got these 5-volt lithium batteries in the back of them, which typically can be gone within sometimes 12 months. So you've got to keep replacing it to keep the signal strength high. But that being said, a lot of the time now they're using these heart rates on the back of on the front of your wrist, on the back of the watch, which are getting more accurate as well. So first step, consistency is the key. Second thing is, don't be scared of technology. Get the best you can and get the most you can afford. And then the third one is monitor it, because if you don't monitor it, you can't improve it.
Yeah.
So I think I've pretty much summarized that. You don't need to talk.
That's spot on. Like the thing that that I find that people don't do enough of is just be consistent with what they're doing. It's not accurate. Well, nothing's 100% accurate.
No.
But if you're using the same thing over and over and you're being consistent with that, that's as accurate as you're going to get it, because now you can see the adaptations you're getting from that, that consistent inaccuracy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So
you've got a benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you said, when you first went into like, what heart rate should I be at? Like there's all these different formulas. Like there are like advanced formulas like the Carbonin formula and all that type of stuff for measuring heart rates. But it's like, what am I doing it for? So if it's, let's say, a run, or so just to find out if you need to work more anaerobic or aerobic, you could do something like a modified Cooper's test.
Yeah. Where
you could do your run for 12 minutes, or you could do that on a rower, you could do it on a bike, and you basically go flat out, and then you would measure your max heart rate by the average heart rate. You do your little sum on that, and then you could find out typically which zone you'd be working in the most, and then obviously you work the opposite and see what condition you need to work on. So those little things that you can start with, which are very, very simple to do, and give you a good, nice little accurate thing of what you need to work on.
Yeah.
So if your heart rate zones are up past 85%, say, and they're up in like 93%, you're more lactate driven, you might need to do a little bit more aerobic work to improve your capacity and things. So there's like loads of little drills you can do without worrying about formulas and things like that. And it gives you a good place to start, you know.
What this could be summarized in is accountability. And it's a way of measuring and tracking and improving and building habits, which is essentially what you're trying to do. That's what technology is good for. It.
Yeah. I
always say, it was actually a taxi driver. I was in Newcastle. I just delivered a fitness course to a gym there, and I was on the way back, and I was on the phone to the missus, and I was talking. We'd had some smartwatches ordered that were coming in, and I had to ring up and get them ordered, give them shipping details or whatever. And he heard me talking about these watches and what they did. And the taxi driver said, "Oh, I was going to get one of those step counter watches, but I don't do many steps because I'm in a taxi all day." And I said, "You probably do need one, but because what it will do is it will at least count what you do, and then you've then got a marker to work on for you. Because the reason why he was scared of buying the watch, because he was told that you have to do 10,000 steps a day. And he knows he doesn't do 10,000 steps a day. So he's not going to buy a watch because he knows he's never going to hit 10,000 steps. Yeah. I said to him, you want to buy it to remind you of what you are doing and what you need to do, not necessarily telling you what you're not doing in the long run, if that makes sense. Picture of that one. I said, just if you had a watch or a way of monitoring it and you knew it was 2,000 steps, then you knew that you could set a goal at 2,500. So for you, it's a step up. So, but by not having it, what you're doing is you're closing the door on being aware of what you're doing. You don't have any accountability for it. So by the end of the taxi journey, I think he was going to just chuck me out anyway. But I just, because I was in like teacher mode, I'd just given this education discussion, I proper dressed him down, not dressed him down, but I gave him the full blown, he got me full steam, which, you know, is dangerous.
By the end of the taxi ride, he'd ordered it on Amazon Prime next day delivery. And I
ordered it for him. I said, I'll buy it for you. Where'd you live? Take me there. Took him there. So he did a training session, set him up, he's off.
Set up 2 consults 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. But, you know, he just needed that justification and the validity of, okay, I see, you know, it's all right when you see, you know, a swimmer using it or these adverts when they've got all these athletes using it. But if you're a taxi driver, you think, well, how am I going to use it? Because all this train like an athlete, you're an athlete, there's an athlete inside you, all these slogans that sports companies tell you. It's great. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to encourage you to do more and feel good about it. But what it also does for a lot of people is it makes them think, I'm not part of the elite. I'm not that. I've got a belly in front of me. I'm useless, and it makes people more inferior, if I'm honest. Yeah. And I think that's where you've got to be real with who you're marketing it to, because yes, you want athletes to buy it, and you're sponsoring athletes, but if your taxi driver can't use it, it's no good. So that leads me to this next point of working with clients and everyday people, which we do. So what other ways of building accountability would you recommend, or apps would you use with your clients which are really good that our listeners could think, oh, I've tried that, or that's a good idea?
Like, to be honest, like a lot of people, like let's take, for example, the taxi driver scenario. Like, what's going to be the biggest bang for buck for him, do you think? Like, he sat down all day. Let's say he does a 10-hour shift in a taxi. Like, that's 10 hours of his day gone. You know, basically off that, the only other thing that he can do now is manage his food. So he needs to understand, and this is something where people need to understand, because if you look at the studies on a lot of things, there's a lot of studies coming out on it, where people don't understand how many calories are in certain foods because of their hyperpalatable foods. And let's take, for example, people think that most processed foods are just carbs. Mm-hmm. They think if they take a processed food away, they're limiting carbohydrates away, when in actual fact it's carbs and fats. So it's hyperpalatable, it's high calorie, it's high non-nutrient density, energy density. So it's very high calorie, but the majority of that's from fat and carbs together. Now, what the studies are showing is people that go for those types of foods, when they're put side by side with other foods, they will willingly pay more for those hyperpalatable foods, but they don't know the calorie amount in them. So for me, it's like, let's just track what you're doing. It's not to say that that food is a bad choice for you. Say, if you want to keep that in, that's fine for now, but let's just get a balance on what that looks like day to day, so you can start controlling the amount of food you're eating or calories you're eating, so you can start to lose the weight that you want to lose. So like MyFitnessPal is obviously the most common one that people use in terms of a tracking app in terms of food intake. Another good one is Chronometer. Yeah. So what Chronometer, it's good. So Chronometer's potentially a little bit more accurate in terms of the foods on there, because they're used from universities and nutrition databases, but they also allow you to see the nutrients.
Yeah, it breaks it down much better. Much more.
The nutrients in your day. So it's like how much vitamin A you've had, vitamin C, magnesium, all that type of stuff. Yeah. So now you can pretty much see, okay, oh my God, well, I'm low on all these nutrients. So all my calories are coming from this, but I've only got X amount of nutrients coming in. So that means I need to eat more whole foods. Yeah. So that directly gives you an idea of what type of food you should start including in your diet. That means you're going to have to drop a few of these down. So it's not to say you're going to take them all away and go the opposite scenario. It's like, well, imagine there's 2 elevators side by side. You got, let's say this is let's say in your left hand, it's really high above your head, and the right hand's really low around your waist. So the right hand's low, that's your elevator there. That's your nutrient density, so all your vegetables and your minerals. And your left hand is high above your head, elevator. That's all like your processed foods or your fun foods, let's say. You ideally want to get these coming around side by side if you're opposite sides of the spectrum. You want to get these around side by side. So you're getting a good amount of nutrients in, you're keeping a good amount of fun foods in, and that's balanced.
Yeah.
Like you can enjoy that. If you can sustain that and you're staying within a calorie deficit and you're losing weight, odds are you're going to be able to keep that up forever.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So it's getting a handle on what that food intake looks like, how much you should be eating to lose weight for you based off your activity levels and that and so forth, and just keeping accountable to that on the tracking app.
Definitely.
So those two are the ones I would probably look at.
Good stuff. Well, we've covered a bit there in terms of nutrition, training, also music as well, and people's different preferences. I'm just thinking if there's anything else from a digital point of view. I'm having a look through my phone as we speak, actually, at the kind of things. I've got a whole section called fitness on my phone now. It's got it all in. There's a lot of these small, what they call hacks nowadays. I'm showing my age. Yeah. I had to ask somebody, they asked me to write a media piece for a newspaper. They said, can you give us any hacks for this? I said, what do you mean by hack? What are you talking about? I said, yeah, quick tips. And why don't you just say quick tips then? I just can't get my head around why they keep changing.
Little buzzwords.
Silly little things.
Go on. Do you have any apps on there?
Yeah, I've got a mountain of them. I'm running out of data because I'm running out of space and memory. I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize when they join a gym is most gyms they're supplied by an equipment supplier, maybe Life Fitness, Precore, Matrix Fitness, and these are all names that you may or may not know. But they're normally, if you go on the treadmill or the bike, they're at the top of the screens, and those companies tend to have their own apps as well. So you might have joined a gym that's got an app, but you also then might have an app for the product that you're using.
Yeah.
I know for a lot of those, for example, like Life Fitness, they've got an LF Connect app, and you can go on that and you can log your activity on there as well. And a lot of these apps, they link with third-party apps. I mentioned earlier on, I use a Garmin watch, and Garmin are really good because they've got this open source, so you can attach things to it. So if I'm using a Chronometer or MyFitnessPal for nutrition, they will link to it. So it will take my data for sleep, because I can wear it when I'm resting, when I'm sleeping and recovering as well. It'll take that data, and it will take my activity data from using treadmills, bikes, wherever, and it will pump it all in, and it will use your nutrition as well, so you can map it all out in one place. So they're always good. You've also got your body scanners as well. I've got on here InBody, which is a body scanner, eVolt 360, which is another type of body scanner. You've got body tracks as well. So, well, I've got three different scanners. I mean, the nature of my job anyway, but it's different products I work with. But it just shows there are a lot of them out there. And I don't expect, it seems like when you join a gym, you have to also download 4 apps nowadays. But,
That's the thing with the coaching clients that come into my groups. It's like I've got an app where all their programs are set on there, but I've tried to get it developed where all their programs are in one place in their profile. They can start doing progress pictures. That's all stored in the same place. Their weight and circumference measurements is all in the same place, but the app also integrates with MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it with the developers where Chronometer syncs too. It also has Apple Watch integration as well, so it can track the steps. So it basically all goes into one area.
Yeah.
We're asking about Garmin as well, because a lot of people now got the Garmins, but it also uses Fitbit. So basically all they need is like MyFitnessPal, their Apple Health Watch, for example, if they're using that, and it integrates into my training app. So it's trying to get everything in one area, so it's all systemized, so it's all easy to manage. Otherwise, like you said, you downloaded 15 types of apps, you don't know which one you're going in and out of. So I think what you're going to see coming up is like all these companies are going to start to eventually have to work together, and say, right, we can all integrate together. It's just going to be client preference in which one they use and which one they can manage better. But if all of these companies start to talk together and integrate with each other, they've got all these like Zapier apps or whatever they called it to integrate them.
Yeah.
Then I think it's going to be better for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think, again, knowing a little bit more about the background of how these companies work and why there are so many apps, because it's the data which is for them is so important. Because if they can use that data, you can imagine you own a treadmill, and everyone that uses a treadmill logs their mileage, speed, distance on your app, and you own the rights to all that data. And then you get a shoe company, Nike or Adidas, come to you and say, how many people run, how active are, or even like the government, NHS, how active are people? Can you help us with data on movement and tracking? What's the average time somebody spends on a treadmill? You know, it can help with the designing of shoes. It can help with the design of other health apps. Health insurance companies now are they're well in tune with this. You know, Vitality and all the other ones that are out there. They're doing this thing where, you know, you link your health membership to it, so all your activity goes into that. And then what they do is they partner with other companies. So I know with Vitality, if you hit a basic level of steps per day, you get a free Starbucks coffee every week.
Yeah,
there's so much more to it because they're trying to get you in. I know that there is a health chain out there that if you had their health insurance and you went to the gym X amount of times, they either discount your membership or they discounted your life insurance and cover. They give you a premium cover for a lower fee because you were more active. And essentially, you're at less risk of needing health insurance or health services. So it kind of makes sense. And I always get on my soapbox about people that abuse their health and then drain the NHS of the resources and prescriptive drugs. And I always think, is there a way of rewarding the people that look after themselves and do the bits? But because at the end of the day, we're saving money, whereas the majority of people are costing money. And it means that when I go to the one every 10 years, I have to go to the doctors, I'm still back of the queue because I've got all these people in front of me that don't value their health. It really annoys me. I should have almost like a gold card that says, no, Marvin can go first. He spent 10 years trying to not be in this queue, and you spent 10 minutes moaning about being in the queue. Yeah. So it's all that as well. There's two others I want to mention as well for no other reason apart from I've used them and trialed them and just feedback on them. I've used First Beat as well recently, which is a very good app, very scientific, but essentially you're sticking pads on to give it layman's terms, onto your body. Actually got them here. They're right next to me. They're electrodes. Okay. Small electrodes that you stick onto you, and it's got a device that's Bluetooth now actually, and you wear it for a number of days, and you can choose the length, and basically it monitors your heart throughout the whole thing, your heart rate variability, your sleep, your activity. There's a fitness test you can do, which is a steady state walk for 20 minutes as well, so it can look at how your heart rate picks up, but then how fast it recovers, and it gives you a full report on your health and gives you a health score off that as well. A lot of athletes use those nowadays to track recovery, and the data can then be shared straight with the coach. They're quite good. And then I've also been trying an American company called Lumen, which is a breathing device, looks like a vape. And when you breathe on, you take breaths in the morning, at night, it measures the CO2 in your lungs, and then what it does, it gives you a score based on that. Again, it's consistency. You've got to do it for a number of days and weeks because you've got to do it, and the more you can do it, the more accurate it will be. So if you do it, you know, before you exercise and after you exercise, it will monitor the difference in CO2 while you're exercising. And what it does is when it gets the pattern, it will tell you if you're more burning body fat or if you're burning carbohydrates. It gives you these sort of health scores. So you can also put in your nutrition as well. So it will say, if you want to lose body fat, you need to be on, today is a low carb day. Yeah. So there's a lot in there to sort of pick through. And I think a lot of it's, you know, you get like this health score, and I'm probably not doing it the best service for do your own research, but this is just from what I take away from it. Yeah. Essentially, if you exercise, but then also give yourself time in between, so there's a fasting window, you're more optimal and more susceptible to burning body fat than burning muscle or anything else.
And that would then obviously compare to you could potentially compare that to your HRV too. So like the lower your like the higher HRV, the better.
Yeah.
That means you've got a lower resting heart rate, and then opposite is true. So if you've got a higher resting heart rate, your HRV tends to drop. So that basically means the lower HRV, the less recovered you are. So that could potentially then signify what type of, like that would be interesting to see how that works with the Lumen in terms of CO2 and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So if people that really dig this type of stuff like me and you, we would probably go hell for leather on this and track it and see, well, that's really interesting. If I'm stressed out, then I could probably are going to be on a lower carb day.
Yeah.
There's lots of glucose going on in the bloodstream because my stress is so high.
Yeah.
And then the patternings on that could be quite good. But then you've got the other end of the spectrum where people are just coming into this type of stuff and they're going, that's way too advanced for me.
Yeah.
You know
They
what I mean?
are
It's like, just start with
like I said,
MyFitnessPal.
it's a gateway. You've got to, once you get the thirst for it. I mean, my friends have got infrared sauna sleeping bags that they've got at the house. They've got compression boots that they're on. They've got all sorts. I'll tell you what we haven't mentioned, but this is what we're going to finish with, draw it to a close, because it won't take long to summarize how good this is. Aura Ring. How have we not even gone to Aura Ring?
They're one on my finger.
It's just, well, you've got one, I haven't. I just know all about them and have always wanted one.
Yeah, they're good, mate. They're good. Like, I've used it for past couple of years, and literally I'll know now, because I've been tracking it for a while. I'll pretty much know what would affect my sleep. So I basically use it for sleep. So it's a little bit more accurate based off the end of your finger. The skin's the thinnest part here. So it can pick up the peak blood volume there. So obviously the lower, when you start to go to sleep, it'll sense your sleep and things like that. Now, I can tell based off what I'm going to eat and drink, or how close to bed, or what type of things I eat before bed, I know they'll affect my sleep. But the thing is, like, it's not to not have them. It's just, I just know it's going to affect my sleep. So if I eat a larger meal before, or the closer I go to bed, or if it's like more red meat or alcohol, things like that, I know my sleep's going to be affected.
Yeah.
Like I put up a post on my stories the other morning. It was after Amelia's birthday. So we had, like, I fasted throughout the part of the morning. So I knew what was going to happen at the end of the day. And I basically had around 3,000 calories, 2,500 calories, like the last end of the day. So imagine how much food that was going through me, and what my digestive system had to do to start putting that through. I had a little bit more alcohol than I was expecting, or expected to have, birthday cake, things like that. The next morning, my readiness was 53 out of 100. So that's like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. You know what I mean? So it's like that's, I knew what was going to happen. I knew.
Yeah.
Right. So once you can start to track that, and you start to see what affects your sleep really well, and that could be going into terms of how much coffee you have in a day, or where you place the coffee in the day, right? And it's just testing things. So it's not to say anything's bad or good. It's like, what is good for you as an N1 study, because at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself as an individual and what you're doing and what's best for you, right? So definitely, the Oura Rings are really, really good in terms of tracking the sleep, how much REM sleep you have, how much deep sleep you have, total sleep, things like that. It's fantastic.
I just think with all these things, there's going to be a portion of people that are scared to hell out of what we've just said, and it's all gone over their head. Other ones that are fascinated and going, oh, I'll try that. And I just think that you've got the takeaway from all this is, you probably shouldn't use the word takeaway too much when we're talking about health and fitness. It gets people's juices flowing too much. Maybe do a whole show on the best takeaway. But I just think that people need to they just need to embrace it. And without sounding too sort of hippie about it, you can't close this off. Digital technology and the way things are done globally is here forever. And it's getting faster, it's getting more accurate, and there's more of it. And it's very difficult if you're going to resist it, because it will just, it's like a tsunami's coming, and what am I going to do? It's going to hit you.
Yeah.
And it is a tsunami. Because if I go back to 3-4 years ago when I was living in China, and I always go on about this, I never saw money the entire time. I had one app that did my utility bills, gas, electricity. I could order food on it. My wages were paid into it. I ordered taxes on it, everything. Absolutely everything I needed to do, my Starbucks coffee reward card, everything was through WeChat. Not a single thing did I do other than that. It was one app. So when we talk about, I've just listed all those apps that I've got on my phone, I had one in China. It did everything. And it was also your social media. It was all that. You could pay bills, order your food at restaurants before you arrived, book a table, split the bill with your friends, give a tip. You name it, it did it. And you'll never be able to get that unless you live there, because you can only open up an account with a bank account, which is right. So you'll have to take my word for it unless you go and live there. And I'm not going to recommend that. So, no, it was a learning curve, a very good learning curve, but I've done it. Yeah. You've been plenty of times to know enough about it. I was just stupid enough to settle there for a while, but No, he was good. No disrespect to the people there, because I had a great time. It was just the job that was shit. But back to the sensible stuff. We are still in the UK way behind. We're behind in terms of 3, 4, and 5G. In Europe, we're behind in the way things were. I mean, I was opening up gyms in 2017, which had retina and face recognition. And they were using AI technology for memberships in a gym. You turn up and you stand there and they know who you are and let you in. There's no one on the reception.
Yeah.
They did a scan of you. Like, you go to your locker, your own locker, and you'd look at it and it'd scan your eye and open up the door.
It's mental, isn't it?
It's a gym. And it was the cost of that alone, you're thinking, wow, it's astronomical. I'm like, no, because they're making them in every shop corner in China. And that's what they get criticized for, but that's their benefit. They've got factories to churn out technology and components for things in seconds. So technology was through the roof. I remember last thing I was talking about, we had our apartments. The apartments in China they're not built for winter. Cold weather was not good. They didn't have very much insulation. They were very cold. And my partner was pregnant at the time, so was quite worried about the growth of mold as well, talking about affecting sleep and health. So I was like, right, I need a dehumidifier. We got this dehumidifier that was like 25 litres. Now that would do like a 4 or 5 bedroom house in this country. It cost me 20 quid. And when I ordered it at work in the morning, it was at my apartment when I got home that night. So it was like, the speed of things and what you can get, and for the cost of it, that would cost you in this country. I've got one from my house now that cost me £250 in this country. It cost me 20 quid in China.
Yeah.
So just bringing it back to a summary, the technology and the way things are progressing and the speed things happen, you shouldn't be scared of. You should be excited about it. If we can get you to your health goal quicker by using an app or monitoring your sleep or improving and decreasing stress and the way your hormones fluctuate, that's only a good thing. So wearing a ring or putting a watch on your wrist is what you're doing anyway. So
100%.
Lots of good stuff there, Gav.
Nice, mate.
We're a bit of a geeks today.
I know. No coming to America 2 talking or films or anything. We'll see for the next one, right?
No, I think so. All right. Well, let's bring it to a close there. Let people get on with their time and day. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll join you for another show. Gav and Marv.
Oh, yeah, Gav.